What's up, everybody? It's Jared with Capture the Magic. And obviously, Universal is being very aggressive lately in the things that they have been doing, not only in Orlando with Epic Universe, but the Universal Horror Unleashed houses that they're doing in Las Vegas and recently announced for Chicago, the Kids Resort that they're building in Texas, which is also rumored to be going on West Coast and East Coast potentially, and of course, the Universal UK park that they recently announced. And I don't think that they're going to slow down anytime soon in Orlando either, just because Epic Universe has just opened. So one thing I always enjoy doing is speculating on things that could come to both Universal Studios and, of course, Epic Universe. And I know every single time I do a speculation video, there's a couple people in the comments that think it's dumb because Epic just opened. I don't care. I think it's fun to do, and theme parks are supposed to be fun.
I'm dug in, and I'll never change.
So some people sent me over this video from Theme Park Brandon, so I figured I'll do a reaction to this because he's got some ideas about what may be coming to Universal Studios and also Epic Universe. I think he says next 10 years here of what it could look like at Universal Orlando. So we're going to watch through this video, react to it, and give some thoughts here from Theme Park Brandon.
With Universal Orlando opening Epic Universe, the future is extremely intriguing for Universal Orlando, and the rumor mill is already filled with a ton of different new attractions and portals for Epic. But the big question is, how will Universal Orlando look like in 5 or 10 years from now? Here are my predictions.
That's a really good question, and I do think within, like, especially by 2035, I think Universal Orlando is going to look completely different. Well, I should say completely. It's going to look a lot different with a lot more things going on than what it currently is. And if you think about the past 10 years and what they did, I think that was just basically almost like a warm-up, because the last 10 years, obviously Universal has had a lot more success. They ate in about 10% of market share from Disney. And Epic Universe, I don't think is the ending point or the stopping point of that. I really think it's the launching point for what they're going to continue to do. And I think seeing what they're doing with the Horror Unleashed and the Kids Resort and announcement of the UK park, I think Universal is basically showing that not only in Orlando, but just all over the world, that they are going to be very, very aggressive, and they see something they really like in what they're doing, and they're just going to like double down into all this. So I think, yeah, I think that's an interesting thing to look at, like what this park will look like in 10 years.
For what I think each of the next major attractions coming to each park will be, and when we can expect it to open. Then, later in the video, I share with you 2 locations to keep your eye on for a possible new Universal theme park altogether. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm really glad you're here. It's Theme Park Brandon, and Universal Orlando, like, you'd be shocked. There's so much room for this company to continue adding major new thrill rides, new epic lands, new portals, and new theme parks.
He's right. And what's interesting about all the growth Universal has had, there's so many areas of the existing parks that could use either replacement or refurb, or just areas that are just not utilized, like the Fear Factor stage area that they have back there they use for Halloween Horror Nights. But outside of that, it doesn't get used most of the time. There is that theater that is right outside Toon Lagoon, between Toon Lagoon and Marvel Superhero Island, that doesn't get used. I had another video talking about Toon Lagoon is one. I think that one is a candidate for having something to do with that land. And there's more as well. Obviously, Lost Continent is in there. There's a lot of areas that they can utilize that they still have not done. But also, another thing a lot of people may not know is with Epic Universe, a lot of the backstage areas that they were using in Universal Studios Orlando over there were moved over to Epic Universe, not in the theme park, but the entire landmass of Epic Universe over there. They moved a lot of that over there, so they now have room in these backstage areas where they can expand these lands and even fill out the parks even more. So they still have a lot of room to grow, even though they are a theme park that is landlocked. They don't have the luxury of size like, say, Disney World does, but they have a lot of areas that they can expand upon and do a lot of new things.
I'm really excited to kind of break down the overall areas of these parks and what I can see happening for the future. So let's get right into this, starting off with Volcano Bay. Now, this is the best overall water park in Orlando.
Agreed. I'm not a water park person, but I love Volcano Bay.
It's fantastic. Like, if you've never been, you have to go. And they've been rumored for a while now to have like a phase 2 expansion. Well, they haven't had it yet. So it is a little bit concerning for me, but I do think with the popularity of Epic and the more crowds coming to Universal opposed to Disney, that Universal's going to be dumping a little bit more money into this water park. And with that being said, a new water slide of some kind. And if you look at their collection of water slides, the one thing that really stands out that they're missing is a mat racer. So I could definitely see a giant 8-lane mat racer that goes through, obviously not the volcano, but different turns and twists.
That would be cool. Now, the only thing I would say that I maybe would hesitate to say they will expand Volcano Bay is recently they announced, the Tapu Tapu going away, which I don't really know what that's about. It might be a licensing thing because I know they have to pay the company that basically has that technology. So they essentially sort of have I guess they would just have a yearly fee they pay to use that tech in Volcano Bay. But they also announced in 2026, it's going to go into a seasonal closure. So I don't know if that means they wouldn't expand it. I'm not saying they won't. I suppose that just could a little bit of a wrinkle into expanding Volcano Bay if they're already shutting it down for like 5 months out of the year. Now, that could be just a one-time thing. They didn't say this was a seasonal thing, and I suppose it could be like a refurb. Like they could go in and refurb a lot of these rides in Volcano Bay potentially. But as of now, yeah, maybe. I'm not really completely sold that they would focus on Volcano Bay, but I'm not saying they wouldn't either.
There's a lot of cool things that Whitewater or even Pro Slide can do with mat racers, and I would love to see this high-capacity attraction be added to Volcano Bay. And I think that can come as early as 2026. Heading over to Islands of Adventure.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, with it going into that closure period there, they could announce that. I'd be a little surprised, though. But I do like that idea, that mat racer. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
For the Lost Continent refurb. Now, this area is my personal favorite area of islands due to the theming and stuff, but they have no real attractions anymore, unfortunately. So they have the giant Sinbad stunt show theater still sitting there, as well as Poseidon's building that's no longer there. Like, the attraction's gone. So there's a lot that Universal could do with this area. And I think, obviously, the Lost Continent theme will go away eventually. And with that being said, I think we could see a Super Nintendo themed overlay to the area, potentially Zelda. This would be really, really exciting for Universal. And you might think, well, that's stupid, Brandon. They would just build it at Epic and have it be, an expansion pad off of the Super Nintendo world at Epic. Well, that they could. But just like the same business model that they had with Harry Potter, and have it at multiple parks, if you open up a Zelda-themed area at IOA and then the actual main Super Nintendo World portal at Epic, people are going to buy that ticket to experience both. So
this is a rumor that has been around for a long time, that Zelda would be coming into Lost Continent. A lot of stuff fueled this because they shut down Poseidon's Fury for a bit for a refurb. It reopened. And then shortly after that show reopened, it shut back down, and they have done nothing with that area ever since then. And the big rumor at the time was that they shut that down because they were getting ready to announce Zelda was going to come into Lost Continent. Now, Zelda would make sense in Lost Continent, just given the theming there. You could easily convert that over to, Hyrule and everything like that, as long as they don't touch Mythos. Whatever they do with Lost Continent, do not touch Mythos. That restaurant is fantastic. You can retheme it if you want to, but just don't mess with the food. And whoever runs Mythos, they need to take them and put them into other restaurants because it is one of the best restaurants, if not the best sit-down restaurant I've had in a theme park. But the Zelda stuff is interesting now because with Epic Universe, you have the Super Nintendo store that's outside of the land that you can go into there, and Zelda is all over that store. And that's led me to think they might put Zelda in Epic Universe. And I do know at one point when they were developing different ideas for Zelda, they were worried about the mass appeal of Zelda if it had enough to really draw people in on its own. So if that has been a worry, it would make sense to essentially tuck it into Super Nintendo World, and it just becomes part of the greater Nintendo offerings that they have there. I do think they're going to continue to have Nintendo properties in the other parks, much like they've done with the Wizarding World. The big rumor out there, and I think pretty much it will probably happen from what I have heard, is Pokemon coming into the studio side, but I'm not really sure on Islands of Adventure what they would put in there if they don't put Zelda. I suppose that's the question there. Now, I have also heard that Luigi's Mansion is essentially almost been greenlit internally to be the expansion at Epic Universe. Obviously, nobody knows for sure, but I do think they'll probably follow that same model of having Nintendo properties in each of these parks, much, again, like they've done with the Wizarding Worlds. I just don't know on Zelda. That is a rumor that's been out there. I wouldn't be mad about it, but I just don't know where it currently stands.
I think that Super Nintendo has a very high chance of coming to Epic Universe in some way. And I think Zelda makes a really, really good fit. And there's a lot of intriguing things that they could do with this because, one, they could reuse the Poseidon's building for an indoor attraction of some kind, as well as use the area as you see here where the old stunt show theater is located.
I mean, those are two pretty big buildings you could definitely do attractions with. Even though I like Poseidon's Fury, but obviously that's not going to come back. But obviously something indoor is preferable, especially Islands of Adventure has a similar issue to Epic Universe in that a lot of it outdoor attractions. So when it does rain, a lot of rides in that park do go down. So I think another indoor attraction or a couple indoor attractions would be good at Islands as well as Epic Universe.
There's a lot of cool different rides and attractions. I actually made a video about this like 2 years ago. Check it out. It's in the description of this video where I showcase just how Universal can fit in a massive B&M launched wing coaster that would basically travel over this whole entire area, plus use the Poseidon's building for another indoor dark ride or indoor attraction of some kind. I don't know if it's going to be a B&M. I've heard from multiple people that Universal and B&M do not have a great relationship at the moment. So I don't know if we would see a new B&M come to the park because I'm kind of shocked that Epic did not open up at the B&M.
Universal seems to really like Intamin. I mean, Intamin made Hagrid's. They did Hiccup's Wing Gliders. They're doing the new replacement for Rip Ride Rockit. And I think Intamin also is doing Hollywood Drift out in Universal Hollywood. So they have a really good track record and apparently really enjoy working with Intamin. So I wouldn't be surprised if they used Intamin. And Mack Rides is also one that's been rumored to be a coaster manufacturer they would work with. So if they go the coaster route, I kind of lean toward either Mack or Intamin if they were to do that, if just given what they've done recently at least.
But maybe we get something from Vekoma, Mack, potentially Intamin, but I doubt it since we have Velocicoaster and Hagrid's. But whatever it is going to be, I think it's going to be a rather thrilling ride that might include some dark ride segments, some outdoor segments, whatever it is. Obviously, Universal, if they do things the way they've done in the past, you know it's going to be a high level of thrills, high level of detail, and just an overall amazing attraction. So I'm really excited about that. Now, I think this is going to open up sometime in 2028. And the reason why I say that is because Universal Studios...
These are some aggressive timelines. I mean, even if they announce this like in the next few months, I mean, Universal builds fast. I just don't know if 2028 is a realistic timeline considering... I mean, it could be if they did announce it. I feel like that's very, very quick, but it's possible, I suppose.
Right next door, they've already said that they're removing Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit in September of this year as the last time to ever ride it.
Actually, now it's, I think he may have recorded this before they announced. I think it's now August 24th. It's in August whenever it's actually going away. And they're actually already doing a lot of work around this ride. They've already got construction walls up around near the firehouse that's in the New York side. And they're clearing land very visible from even the City Walk side of what, adding some new things for whatever is coming in here. But the big rumor there is probably either Fast and Furious or a Ghostbusters coaster, which I would be all for a Ghostbusters coaster. I think that'd be pretty cool to see retro properties start coming back, which I think would also lead to probably Back to the Future coming back, which I would be on board for both of these, if not more like retro styled attractions coming into the parks.
We're going to be tearing this pile of junk. Sorry if that offends anyone. I'm not a big Rocket fan. If you are, I respect it. It's a fun ride. I just wish it was a B&M or Intamin, hyper coaster or a mini hyper coaster. But anyways, regardless of that, I think that if they would actually build a ride in this area, it's going to be an Intamin vertical launch coaster themed to the Fast and Furious. I'll be very curious to see what they do with the current Fast and Furious attraction, if they just close it all together or just keep it up to pair along with this one.
I've talked about this before, but I will say it is going to be an Intamin coaster that is replacing it. They have said that, and there is a coaster track that I'll overlay right here where essentially they haven't said so, but this one from Intamin would fit the footprint of Rip Ride Rockit, so I think that's very likely to be the coaster that goes in here. But, if they do Fast and Furious as the coaster, I think undoubtedly that means that Supercharged is very on borrowed time. It is going to go away sometime soon. If they don't do Fast and Furious, let's say they do Ghostbusters, there are a lot of question marks about does Supercharged stick around, because that obviously is one of the newer attractions in the park, but it is panned very openly. I mean, And I think the thinking there is they want a Fast and Furious, aspect in their parks, considering that is a franchise that they own, and it does perform well at the box office, even though most of that is overseas. But I do think they want to have Fast and Furious in their parks. So that's when you're talking about this new ride going in. I understand the thinking of it being Fast and Furious. Being in New York, though, kind of makes me like Fast and Furious is a California, Los Angeles based story. But again, you could make it work, but I would be very curious as to which way they go and what that means for Supercharged and what that can mean for other things that they end up doing.
But I definitely think this new coaster is going to be tall. I think it could very well be taller than Rip Ride Rockit. It's going to feature launches, and I think it'll be obviously covering the same area. It would not surprise me at all if they'd even reuse the rocket station in some way if they had to. But I am very, very excited about this project because Universal Studios Florida desperately needs something. I mean, Iowa, you had Velocicoaster Hagrid's, like you're set for a while. Universal Studios, they need something. Obviously, that's the park with all the great events and stuff, but they definitely need something and something soon. That is why I think this is going to be opening up in early 2027. I think the construction is going to go extremely quickly.
As quickly as they've already started before it even shuts down. That timeline I could see. I think they will move very quickly, and it's not like they're going to do a whole land here. They're just building the coaster. So it's a feasible thing that this one will have a very quick turnaround compared to doing a whole land where you're going to theme it after a single IP, much like they've done with the Wizarding Worlds and what they've done with Epic Universe. So this one, I think the timeline here can be very quick.
Might even open up late 2026. Again, Universal Studios is the weakest link of the parks now. So Universal wants to be able to create a dynamic triangular of the parks, if you will, of all three parks on the same par. That way, your average guest or enthusiast say, you know what, I want to go and buy a 3-day ticket for 3 parks opposed to I'm going to skip out at Universal. So I definitely think Rocket is going to get replaced by an Intamin vertical launch coaster, and I cannot wait for that. Now, here's what's really intriguing for Epic Universe, because they have so many different things going for this park. What can they add next? What would it be? There's a lot. And I really think that if you look at the portals, as much as I would love to see Dark Universe get a new expansion of some kind, I just don't know if whatever type of ride they build there is going to be as big of a draw as a highly well-known IP attraction would. So I can see it going. I don't think we'd have anything in How to Train Your Dragon yet.
If I remember right, I don't know if How to Train Your Dragon now has an expansion pad. I could be wrong on this. I'm trying to remember from all those update videos I did in the past. I want to say, because Isle of Berk is the biggest land at Epic Universe. It also has the most attractions in there. But I agree. I don't think you would do Isle of Berk first. To me personally, I think from everything I've heard, it would be Super Nintendo World first, given that is the busiest land in the park. And obviously Nintendo is massive coming off Switch 2 and obviously the Mario Brothers movie. And I feel like that is more than likely where they would look. But I think he's going to probably say Harry Potter, which I could also understand an argument for, given there's only one attraction in that land right now.
Harry Potter only has one major attraction. Super Nintendo has 3 attractions in it. So I think we might see a new Harry Potter attraction of some kind. This is the area that has the most expansion room around it anyways. I do not think we will see a new portal before we see a new expansion. I could be wrong.
I agree with that. I think they would expand the lands before they would do a whole new portal, more than likely.
But I think I think the Harry Potter area would get the first expansion. Would probably be an outdoor coaster, not an indoor attraction.
If it's going to be the first expansion at Epic, it has to be indoors. Because one of the issues that Epic has currently is when it rains or it storms, you only have 4 attractions open in that park. And obviously that's going to cause some issues for the other attractions, the wait times. So whether it's Harry Potter or Super Nintendo World, whatever the first expansion is, needs to be an indoor ride. So I'll just say I respectfully disagree on this one. Because I don't think you need to be adding more outdoor attractions at Epic Universe before you add some more indoor ones in there. I'm not saying they'll never do another outdoor attraction, but you got to get that more, at least half and half, or majority indoor attractions before you start adding an outdoor one just to balance this park out a little bit.
what kind. I mean, there could be so many different kinds, and this could be happening. I think honestly, 2028 at the earliest. I mean, by the time they start construction and stuff, and the Epic, it doesn't make sense for them to invest a year or two after Epic opens because it's still fresh, it's still new. People want to go see it. So I think 2028.
Although they're already they've got permits out there for some sort of expansion that is more. It's not going to be a land. It's for more than likely some sort of entertainment venue, maybe an offshoot of Celestial Park. I'll just disagree here. I don't think just because Epic is done now, I won't be surprised if they announce something rather soon for Epic Universe. Like I say soon in like a year's time or maybe 2 years' time. I think that would still be considered soon for adding something to Epic Universe. But I think seeing how that park is with those wait times right now and them obviously trying to, address that with adding new things in there, I think for the park's long-term success and really hoping to get it to the maximum capacity that they want it. And I do think that Epic Universe is Universal Studios Magic Kingdom. That is, they want that to be, and probably is at this point, their flagship park. So you want to get more things in there as soon as you can. And as aggressive as Universal is being, I do think that they will double down into Epic Universe while at the same time adding things into the existing parks as well.
2029 before we see Epic have the first attraction built. Now let's talk about the fourth park and where Universal Orlando can build a new potential theme park, because again, with Epic, Universal, IOA, I feel like, so I think 22 coaster gear that I did, Orlando can build a new potential theme park, because again, with Epic, Universal, IOA, I feel like there's the same amount of chances of Disney building a fifth gate as there is for Universal building a fourth gate, not including Volcano Bay. And
I'll disagree there. I did another video on this. I don't think Disney, I just don't think they're going to build a fifth gate. I know they recently got approved by the Oversight District that they could between 2035 and 2045, but I think I had a whole video on this. If you want to go back and watch that, you can. But there's a lot of reasons as to why Disney is not in a place to build a fifth gate. And I also just think they don't need a fifth gate. I don't think Orlando really can support, or really is enough room to have Universal having 3 parks, maybe eventually 4, and then Disney adding 5. There's not enough vacation days for most people traveling to check out all those parks. And at this point, I think Universal and Disney are going to share an audience going forward. It just turns on how much of a split there is. But I think 5 gates at Disney World just doesn't make any sense as things currently stand right now. That could change in 10, 20 years, but I'll disagree. I think there's a better chance that Universal adds a fourth park. I know people think Volcano Bay is now a fourth park, but it's a water park. Adding a fourth park before Disney has a fifth gate. I think there's way more chance of Universal doing that than Disney.
And there's quite a few areas that they could already build this park on land they already own. The first one will be this area located just south of the parking lot. And this area right here, believe it or not, is 30 acres. Now, there's a lot of things that they could do with this, because what I think they should do is build a Universal Kids Resort style park.
I agree. I've said this one before. I completely agree with him. I think they could do this. I think it makes a lot of sense to do this. It's a cheap park. It's mostly based off for like little kids and young families, so it wouldn't cost you a lot of money. I think the one they're building in Frisco, Texas has like overall cost of $500 million, which obviously is a lot of money. But if you look at Epic Universe's cost, which was about $7 billion, much less cost here. Very simple rides and going after that young kid family demographic that Universal really hasn't been known for in the past, I think would be a very interesting thing. And I could see them doing this because, again, it wouldn't cost them a lot of money. And then it would go after a demographic that they wouldn't have to use, areas that they already have, Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure. They're limited on space, what they can do there. So instead of having to dedicate more of this area of these parks to something that's, kiddie friendly and more young families, you can dedicate a whole park to that and then really entice young families to come in. So you've got, little kids and older kids, you got a park and something for each of them to do. I could definitely see them doing this.
This is the park that's opening up over in Frisco, Texas. I think in 2026. Now this park is themed more for the younger crowds. It has a Minions land, a Jurassic Park land, and a couple other cool areas. But I think that it would be really smart, especially with Disney being located right on the other side of I-4, where they can actually really focus on a kid-friendly park and have every attraction be, very, very low height requirements or none at all, I think that's a very smart move for Universal. And this land, to my knowledge, is not occupied by anything, and people can just, they could build a bridge right across from the parking lot over to this. There's a lot of cool things that Universal could do with this. And if they did that, obviously the parking lot right now.
And that area he was talking about before about the kids resort, the one they're building in Frisco, Texas, is about 38 acres, which is what that park is going to be. So that 30 acres right there, that's also very similar in size that you could do here. You already have all the infrastructure around it, the roadways and everything like that. So that plot of land there actually would also make some sense, maybe a little bit smaller than what they're building in Frisco, but that does make sense. You could put that there and it would fit right in there, without a problem, I don't think.
That the park sits on, or that's right next to Epic, is roughly 47 acres. That's a ton of room. Now, it would not surprise me, and I think we could all agree, that it's only a matter of time before Universal Orlando spends the money on yet another parking garage for this complex of their resort. And they could...
I've actually always thought that. I was kind of surprised they went with more of a parking lot, considering they have the parking garage at City Walk. So I've kind of always thought they could always build a parking garage here and then utilize that parking lot space to expand Epic Universe in the future.
Easily fit a massive parking garage in this area, plus maybe a City Walk 2.0, like a City Walk South.
I think they actually have, I don't know anything concrete. I'm pretty sure they have plans for this too, to have like another City Walk over here, which would make a lot of sense again, because not only for Epic Universe, you're away from the main campus, but you're right down the road from the Orlando Convention Center. So you would have a lot of people coming in onto like City Walk 2.0 here that are there for a convention. So not only would it be something for the theme parks, just something in general people would go to, just more touristy things like food and drinks and things like that.
You have entertainment, restaurants, and have Epic Universe, then the City Walk, and then the Universal Kids Resort, all located in one. I think that's a really cool fit for Universal Orlando. I just feel like it would do really, really well for the park and for the overall resort. Obviously when they bought this land, they have long-term plans or tentative plans with it, and I'm super intrigued by it. But what's even more intriguing is just to the west of Epic Universe. Now, this area is owned currently by Lockheed Martin, and it's a massive plot of land, 200 acres. Who's to say down the road, Universal decide to approach them and say, hey, you know what? We want to buy this land. It fits within our portfolio. It's right next to Epic Universe. Technically, Universal can fit 2 Epic Universes inside of this piece of land. That's how big it is. Now, again, will they? Maybe down the road. But
that's a tough. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. Lockheed Martin is a really big company with government contracts. That would be a tough one. I think that I don't know if I would bank on them doing that. They can acquire more land around Epic Universe, undoubtedly, that they could. I just don't know if Lockheed Martin is a feasible thing you would approach them about, hey, we want to buy your land here, what that price tag would even be. And then again, Lockheed Martin, I don't know. I mean, if they did it, that'd make a lot of sense for Universal, but I wouldn't bank on that being the case.
But this area, again, is so intriguing for the future of Universal Orlando because essentially they could be building the new kids resort plus build a new major theme park on this plot of land with some more hotels and everything else. Like, there's a lot to be excited about for this. And speaking of Epic Universe,
yeah, I mean, if Universal is being really aggressive, obviously going from 2 parks to 3 to a kids resort to another park that's from 2 to 5 parks. I think in the whole timeline in here he's talking about for 10 years. I think that's very, very aggressive. I don't know if they'll be that aggressive, but you could develop more land around Epic Universe. I feel like what they would more than likely do perhaps is just look to expand Epic further before looking to build a new major theme park. So I think in terms of a new theme park, just my thinking, and I have no inside info on this, it's just me reacting to this. I would assume, I'm not saying Universal won't look at doing that. Let's say they do the kids resort and then they're looking at another park. I mean, I would assume be 10, 15, 20 years down the road, because I just feel like it would be very quick to already add another one into after you just opened Epic. Yeah, I don't know. Possible, of course, but I have my doubts. All right, so that's the video there. I mean, I like his inventiveness and some of the predictions. I don't know about the timelines there, but some of that stuff I think is more than likely to happen. I like, again, that being along the same thought lines of the kids resort. I've always thought that that would make a lot of sense that they could bring to Orlando, and it would really open them up to a new demographic that they really haven't gone after before, which could be part of their plans. We do know they've been much more, looking to get into that with the DreamWorks land, with Minions land. So they're doing many more things in the parks to go after that demographic. And I think now they do have the IPs to be able to do that. And obviously Nintendo could play into that. I also think when you're looking at just Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure, I mean, like I said in the beginning, there's a lot of areas of those parks that you could do more things with. He didn't mention this, but I mean, the Simpsons contract is up in 2028, and that one is, I mean, it's all but just they're not going to renew that. Disney now owns the Simpsons. I don't think Universal even wants to renew that contract. And the big rumor out there is that Pokemon would go into that area and potentially expand itself into Men in Black area as well. And then there's, of course, backstage areas that are now opened up, so you could expand things even further. I think as well, you look at the Fear Factor area, they could do something with that where, it is used for Halloween Horror Nights, but that is a big area of the park that just sits there vacant for, most of the year outside of Halloween. They could do something with there. Over at Islands Adventure, Toon Lagoon comes to mind as an area that you could revamp at very least. Maybe you leave those water rides, revamp it into something else. You got that big building there, the show building there as well, that just sits empty. That is a big plot of land you could do there. And of course, Lost Continent there. So there's a lot of areas of the existing parks that I think Universal is going to develop in the next 10 years. I think they're going to go in there and look at these. And you have some attractions as well that you would bring up as like obviously Supercharged comes to mind. We have the San Francisco area that is kind of just a pass-through area at this point with Supercharged being around there, so they could revamp that whole kind of area there. So they have a lot of potential, even outside of Epic Universe, out of things they could do in the existing parks. And I do agree with him that you do need to do some things on Studio's side, given that Islands of Adventure has had a lot, Velocicoaster and Hagrid's have had, brand new rides come over there. That has helped that park out quite a bit. So I think Studios need some more things in there, which I think Pokemon would be massive for that. And obviously Rip Ride Rocket's going away, making something new there. I know some people are going to point to Superhero Island, but Universal's never going to do anything with Superhero Island, if anything, just to keep it out of Disney's hands, unless Disney comes to the table and is willing to pay a lot of money to get the rights back for Marvel. And if Universal felt they had something that could go in there, that would be very, very popular. When it comes to Epic Universe, there's also expansion paths like Dark Universe. There's that new ride from Mac. That's that water coaster type of ride you could do. Creature from the Black Lagoon comes to mind. That one has been rumored to be in the works, or at least Universal's looking at it for Epic Universe. So I think there's a lot of things Universal's going to do, and I really have this feeling, I have no inside sources here, is they may be even more aggressive than people are expecting. So you can see them having multiple announcements about things going on, and looking at all the things Disney's doing as a response to Epic Universe. Obviously, Universal sees that. They're not just going to let Disney build these new things and kind of take up all the oxygen if these new things they build are successful. Universal's, even though Epic Universe is brand new, they're going to want to have something new to basically overshadow or be like, hey, look what they did, but look what we did, sort of thing. So this is why I do think, and I won't be surprised if we see a lot of announcements about things coming to the parks in the very near future. And maybe they even get these things done before Disney does. Universal's ability to build quickly does give them a really good advantage. And I think going against Disney more and more into the future, it's going to be something that Universal really, really is able to utilize to their advantage of building these new rides and attractions very quickly at still very high quality. And they have Comcast money. Comcast has basically greenlit a lot of things right now. And I think that they understand they ate 10% of market share in the past decade from Disney. I think they would love to eat even more going into the next 10 years. They have a really unique advantage right now, I think, to be able to really take advantage of that. So I'm not going to be surprised if that's something that they do. But I think this is fun to speculate about these things. Look at the land masses here. Look at the things they could do. And what Universal may look like in 10 years is much different than what Universal looked like in the past 10 years for sure. As Universal has openly said, they want to be the first choice in Orlando. And I don't think they necessarily mean in 20 to 30 years. I think they're being much more aggressive, and they want to close that gap a lot more in the next 10 years. So I think by adding, the only way you do that is continue to grow and expand and create new offerings people want. So I think it's going to be really exciting the next 10 years. Again, I think this competition between Disney and Universal is only going to continue to heat up. And I think Universal is we're just in the beginning stages of whatever their greater plan is. So it's a very exciting time if you're enjoying Disney and Universal, because they both are doing things to expand those parks. And as I've always said, competition is nothing but great. So even if you're somebody that doesn't care about Universal, them expanding and continue to be aggressive is only going to help things, because that's going to force Disney to well, you would think logically to be more competitive, to bring more things to their parks to compete with them, as both of them are just going to continue to go at each other. And I think as Universal continues to eat into more market share, you're just going to see more and more competition, more one-upping from each other, trying to do more things to compete for your vacation dollar. So I think that's a great scenario if you're a guest just wanting great theme park attractions. So go check out Theme Park Brandon. I'll put a link in the description to see that. But for now, that's going to be it, though, for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do lots of coverage here of Universal Studios, Epic Universe, Disney World, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what do you think Universal Studios is going to do in the next 10 to 15 years in the parks? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.